Hi, this is Shilpa here, and I'm answering questions from my students, my Argentum mentoring students who have been asking me questions on miasms, and right from the basics to the more advanced questions on complex multi-miasmatic cases. And so this is my next question. It's by Babette. So there are 2 or 3 questions here from Babette and Helena and a number of other students who had a similar sort of query. So I've actually put them all together. So let me just read them for you. So the question is about order of miasmatic treatment. So the thing is, she says, do you start with treating what is the most prominent disease symptom, that's being pointed to at, or do you start with treating the miasm that seems to be dominant overall? So she said, in my school, I was taught to use only nosodes if they were indicated remedies, or if the indicated remedies stops to work. Now I'm starting to realize that it may be better to start with the nosode if you can clearly discern the miasm. Is this a valid realization? So there's another similar question. It is, by Helena, and she says, when do you start only with the anti-miasmatic remedy and when to combine it with a constitutional or a specific remedy? This is a very good question, and I can see how this can be so confusing. Why not just prescribe a remedy? For me, just at the baseline, if your patient's symptom clearly point to an indicated remedy, then you can start with an indicated remedy. Keep it simple. And we have different terms to denote this remedy. It can be, an organ remedy if your case is at stage 1. It can be a therapeutic remedy if your case is at stage 2. It can be a keynote remedy if it's at stage 3. Or it can be a constitutional remedy, if it's at stage 4. So that is what your indicated remedy is. And it can be sourced from any source. It can be a plant, it can be a mineral, it can be an animal, it can be a nosode, it can be a sarcode, it can be an imponderable. So that's the spectrum you have. But there's something very important. And there are 3 things that you need to know what could happen here. When you've given an indicated remedy, the follow-up assessment is very, very critical. So I'm going to give you 3 scenarios. Scenario A, that indicated remedy will complete the resolution. Isn't this great? But this can happen only when that indicated remedy also covers the fundamental miasm. This is ideal. This is what every practitioner aims for. But this can happen only in cases where we have a well-developed disease picture, good peculiars, traced right to stage 4, which is the fundamental primary miasmatic trigger. Remember, homeopathically, all chronic diseases are miasmatic diseases. Check my past videos on different types of miasmatic diseases and different types of miasm, which means that some form of miasmatic trigger is the fundamental primary root cause of every chronic disease. And the disease expressions are nothing but the secondary manifestations of this primary miasmatic trigger. So if you have a well-developed case, any well-developed case, you have got all the information to elicit the disease symptoms as well as the miasmatic symptoms and the root. So you can potentially find a good indicated remedy that is covering the entire spectrum, the disease symptoms as well as the miasmatic symptoms. They're not separate. This one remedy can ideally cover it all. But practically, this is not the case. That's what the problem is, right? So we have 2 more scenarios, scenarios B and scenario C. So let's now go to scenarios B, okay? This indicated remedy helps, but partially, which means it does not complete the resolution. Now, in this case, you will find that it most likely covered the peculiar indications of the presenting disease, but it did not cover either the exciting cause at stage 3 or the primary root cause or the miasm at stage 4. This is very important to understand. So here you simply use a complementary remedy, a secondary prescription that covers the exciting cause, or it covers the primary root miasmatic cause and its indication. This is what I call working at stage 3 and 4 to complete the resolution. This is very, very critical. And then you might have scenario C, which is when the indicated remedy does not work at all. It doesn't touch the patient. Now, what can go wrong here? Why does it happen? In this case, it is likely the remedy did not cover both the symptoms as well as the miasm. And this is also an extremely common scenario. It's not necessarily to do with the practitioner. It generally happens in cases at stage 1 and 2 where you have just vague disease symptoms or diagnostic symptoms or common local symptoms. Here you simply do not have the information to get good indicated remedies since there are no peculiars. However, what you can get here, if you understand the process well, you can get an anti-miasmatic remedy. So this is the secret in these cases, especially when they are at stage 1 and 2, is to use an anti-miasmatic remedy that at least covers the primary miasmatic root trigger. So it covers just that trigger. Or if you do not have a trigger, then you at least cover some form of latent indication within the chief complaint to break through. So you cover a latent indication or you cover some form of miasmatic indication within the chief complaint to break through the case. Now, for more details on how you find these miasmatic indications, and prescribe that anti-miasmatic remedy when there are no so-called peculiars, check my ebook on Guide to Miasmatic Maze. I'll post the link below. But to get to that second part of your question, Babette, you said in my school I was taught to only use nosodes if they were the indicated remedy or if the indicated remedy stops to work. And now you're starting to realize why not just start with the nosode if you can clearly discern the miasm. Well, I believe, we have answered it in the scenarios above. When you use nosodes as indicated remedies, it is scenario A. This is ideal. The nosode remedy is working both as a constitutional remedy and a miasmatic remedy. Obviously, you can do this only in well-proved nosodes. With Soranum or Meteranum or Tuberculinum, they have a huge big picture, well-developed picture. And you need your case to be at stage 3 or 4, rather 4. But you start with the nosode in scenario C. And I understand why, you think this is better or easier, because yes, many of our cases today are at stage 1 and 2. So in this case, that same nosode is now working as an anti-miasmatic remedy, not an indicated remedy. So, this is the bulk of chronic complex suppressed cases we get in our clinics. And you're right, start with the nosode, use the prominent miasm to, find that nosode. This will dramatically open up a difficult case, throw some peculiars that will make you, find that secondary prescription of a more accurate, of a more confident prescription to get you started in the right direction. And then, that question by Helena where she says, should we start with an anti-miasmatic remedy and when would you combine it with a constitutional specific remedy? Again, with these 3 scenarios, you start with an anti-miasmatic remedy in scenario C, because that is the only way. There are no indications. These patients are suppressed. You do not have good peculiars, right? So that is when you do that. and you combine the anti-miasmatic and the constitutional together in scenario A, because you have the indications to do that, right? So that's the way you go and work with your cases. So hope these 3 scenarios give you enough information and data to get started with your miasmatic treatments. Thank you so much. We'll look at more questions in the coming videos.